Thank you so much. That was a tour de force.
My pleasure. I couldn't imagine doing anything more great.
No, this is awesome. So questions.
Looks like I
So
see. Sure,
I have a
Steve.
question, Jim. So Anastasia's here, and she introduced me to a form of therapy. It's the acronym is TRIP. I think it's trauma release and induction protocol, or you'll have to help me with that, Anastasia. But the idea is if you cover one eye and then have an experience, and there's a different way that the brain processes when you cover the other eye.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think I froze. Maybe if I freeze, fill it in with something smart or intelligent. Uh,
So what's the question, Steve? The freezing Stephen.
And if you freeze up too much, feel free to just type in the chat too,
Okay,
as
I
well.
will. So the question being is, we're talking from a cognitive movement standpoint, right? A physiology standpoint. Has anything moved forward in relation to thinking and emotional relationship to MMD?
Well, I can tell you two things that come to my mind. The first thing, for those of us who have heard of EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing, it's a newer science practice, neurophysical practice, and it involves equal bilateral eye movement, right to left, left to right, and also hand tappings. There are different manifestations of it, but it's equal bilateral movement, and it works to better recall and better reprocess memory. And it's used in particular in trauma healing, trauma work, so emotional, mental work. So EMDR has been getting a lot of traction within these recent years. I only heard of it within this last year because I had friends who reached out to me who know of me and everything that I do. And they're like, this sounds like MMD. You should totally look into this. And I'm like, sure enough, it is MMD. It's pure MMD. Um, Another example that comes to my mind when working to teach this, I gave a workshop on this to the San Diego Brain Club back in December. And we actually sat down and we were practicing mirror reading. We were practicing some mirror writing and working to learn that. The next day, the following evening, the director of that group, she told me, she said, you will not believe this. She told me how one of the women in the group, let's call her Chelsea. Chelsea, she the next morning felt so inspired by all of this. She decided to journal. She spends every morning journaling. She decided to start journaling left handed, using her less dominant hand. Wasn't writing mirror direction, that's an added level, but just still lefty traditional directional writing. That it's a form of MMD. And she said that she was able to process better her emotional and mental state while working at journaling like this. It caused her to slow down and think in a different way about what it was that she was processing. She felt a bit of an insight breakthrough on an issue that she was dealing with a family member. She felt later confident enough to reach out to the family member with this insight. They had some beef that was going on for a while. They were able to hash it out, and she just chalked it up as a major success story of like, wow, this really helped me to get a new insight on what it was that I was kind of struggling with. There's also a woman, I'm trying to recall her name, but she wrote a book called Writing on. I'm butchering the title because I've not read it, but she's talking about writing on the other side of the brain. She's using the other hand for journaling and drawing, and she talks about it as resurging that creative process for her. So perhaps somewhere in there I answered a question, or maybe you just created
I
new
love
ones.
that, and it opened up one other question for you, and it's relate to the concept of self. Have you ever heard of true mirror? Yeah, a true
No.
mirror is when you actually see a true mirror is when it's a 90-degree mirror, but what ends up happening is you see yourself inversed. So
Oh yes.
only view we're normally used to seeing ourselves reflect.
Yep. We're breaking up again. There's something though that comes to my mind on that.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's something that might be worthwhile to look up because the human perception is when you see yourself reflected,
mhm.
you remove the filters of the the asymmetries, the differences, and most people end up in tears because it's like they're seeing themselves in a different way that
In a
they've
real
never
way.
considered
Yep.
themselves.
Well, one thing that comes to my
So,
mind, I once heard a podcast about this where the person presenting was talking about how he would always part his hair, and he would always part his hair in one direction based on himself looking in the mirror. And he got made fun of a lot growing up. And then he one day had the idea randomly just to part his hair the other way. And he noticed drastically people made fun of him less. And he thought, this is crazy. This can't have a thing. But he swore by, he started doing it what felt like the unnatural way. And to him, looking in the mirror, he would do it. And he felt like he was getting better attention to people. He said he later contacted the president at the time, who this was back in the 70s, and he would part his hair one way. And he never heard back from the president, but he said that within a few weeks, he saw the president on TV and his hair was parted the other direction. And he insisted that the president must have saw the letter. He started parting his hair the other way.
thank you.
And so just, one thing there that comes to my mind.
It's very cool. Thank you, Stephen.
I just have.
While he's coming back, let's go to Jim Flaherty. Jim, you need to go on mute. So we've missed everything, Stephen. We'll just move on to Jim.
Hi, Jim. It was very interesting. Thank you so much. What if so much of one's life is based on the use of both hands? Let's stick to hands. When I was young, I played clarinet, cello, and bassoon, all of which require complete, there's no favorite hand, right?
It's all designed for one side, right?
Right. And I'm a writer. So I live, and I learned to type when I was like 13. So I live on the keyboard. I mean, I'm a very, very, very fast typist. And the idea of changing to a mirror keyboard would be like, I think that would lead to a quick nervous breakdown. Then in living, things growing up, I played tennis, left hand. I'm a real left-hander. I played tennis, left hand, everything. And then suddenly I was in the Army and somebody gave me a rifle and I picked it up and I was right-handed. I shoot right-handed. And when I learned to play golf, I played right-handed. I don't know why, but those things were natural. And other than that, I exercise every day, but there is no real function, whether I'm, and certainly in exercise, there is no favoring one side or the other. But I don't know. It seems to me that when you have music and typing, everything is involved, right?
Yeah, because you're using both hands. A lot of people will, in fact, say, "Oh, well, you're playing music, you're using both hands, so that must be MMD." Well, you're using both hands, so you're sending blood flow to both brain hemispheres, of course. But the real way to practice MMD when it comes to music is to learn on a mirrored instrument. So you're getting a guitar, you would mirror the strings.
Yeah.
The piano, instead of playing from low to high that direction, it would be low to high the other direction, which we don't make pianos that way. So if the instrument doesn't even exist, well, how could you actually even practice MMD purely with it? Well, that's what we do lack in culture. So it's this is new to a lot of you guys, or I want to say everybody, as far as the concept of MMD. I did coin that term, so you are hearing that for the first time. But this concept has been practiced by many people and cultures for centuries over the years. The ancient Greeks had a version of writing called boustrophodon, where they wrote both mirrored and traditional and alternating lines. The Eastern Islanders had a version of this as well. Apparently, the ancient Scythians made it a law that people had to develop both sides equally. And they were known as being some of the best archers in the world because they can, use a bow and arrow from both sides. Lord Robert Baden-Powell, who's in the very center of the cover of my book, Between Da Vinci and Franklin, he didn't consider any of his soldiers thoroughly trained unless they could shoot a rifle from both sides, use a lance from both sides, and mount and dismount a horse equally from both sides. So, and he was also the vice president of the Ambidextral Culture Society of Great Britain. So it's not a new thing, but it's new to a lot of us. And there's a lot of areas where we've been missing this. But hopefully that can change over time. We're humans, we're capable of anything. We could choose to design this and choose to teach this and choose to practice it. But again, it's the first time a lot of us are hearing this and thinking, I already have one good right hand. Why do I need to use this left one? And for many of us, it's that simple and it ends right there. But I would tell them, dude, you have no clue what you're missing in this life. Like, if you want the most optimal expression and use of your body long term, that's why I call this the third pillar of longevity, along with nutrition and exercise. If you want to be able to use your body and brain well over the years, this is what you want.
That's awesome.
Got it. Thank you, friend.
Thank you. Jan.
Thank you, Jim. Very interesting. So I had a few thoughts. So one is, and Stephen mentioned like different eyes, because most of us don't have equal vision in both eyes. I mean, and then one of the things that was, because I know how much definitely I could see a difference. Like if I cover my right eye versus left eye and try to just navigate the world through that one side, it is different. But one of the things I also wondered is that people who have amblyopia, where definitely one eye is less strong than another, where people wear patches or whatever, and then to strengthen muscularly, because usually that has a lot to do and greatly affects depth perception. So if we talk about spatial awareness, is they either have no depth perception or very poor depth perception based on that.
Yeah. And MMD, I say every average human body is designed for MMD, and we get more turns around the sun. Different things happen with our body. We experience different limitations as time goes on. Now, if you were to practice, if for that person who has the issue between their eyes, I would theorize if they practice MMD their whole lives, this may be something that can help stave off losing ability on one side over the other and gaining equal ability between both sides. We're here on Earth. We're here on Earth. We each have our own problems, our limitations, and I would tell anyone, incorporate MMD as best as you can. There's many of us on Earth who only have one limb. We don't have a left arm, or we don't have a right arm, so that person won't be able to learn how to throw between both sides, but that person could learn how to kick from both sides as best as they can. They can certainly learn how to mirror read. Mirror read, again, that's the number one thing that I tell people, because the eyes they're no small thing. The eyes are the only exterior part of the brain. They're not just connected to the brain, they're actually part of the brain. So that eye movement is no small thing. So you really do want to be moving them both directions, and mirror reading is the only way to do that neurophysically when it comes to this cognitively. One thing I'll mention too, Leonardo da Vinci, he died at 67. And it's written that he died connected to stroke-related issues, which is a sided thing. And you're thinking, well, geez, if he was one of the biggest practitioners of MMD, you should think, well, he should never have a stroke. Some believe that he had an accident within the last 5 years of his life that would have debilitated one of his sides over the other. But it was noted that he never lost his ability to communicate. He never lost that language faculty that many people who do suffer from stroke deal with. It's argued that he would have had the language center in both brain hemispheres, because he preferred writing lefty mirrored in all of his journals, but he could also write righty traditional for anything public facing, which is what I do. I've learned how to do this starting in my 30s. I didn't start writing left-handed until 10 years ago in my 30s. I didn't start mirroring it until 6 years ago. So it's learnable. Again, I might have created more questions than answers on that one.
No. It was great. Thank you.
Great. Adele, or the Adele.
So this has been fascinating. I've always been ambidextrous in my hands. Feet, not so much. Like if I go lefty on my on my kicking, I'll end up on my butt, so I just don't do it. But it's also interesting because I know many massage therapists who have always said skateboarders, snowboarders, like everything, they're just messed up,
Because they
right?
only do it one side.
Well, I know. And then I was looking at my grandniece and nephew who are 4 and 6, and I'm like, you can already see the starting of the mess, right? And so
Yep.
now this is very interesting. I'm gonna, when I see them, I'm gonna start working with them. But also the writing with your opposite hand, because I'm in the generation that we all had to write right,
Yep. Our great
right?
mistake, culture, our
I
greatest
know,
mistake
but
we've
I would
ever
come
made culturally.
home to all my lefty family. So I always did both.
Yep.
But what I've learned later as I got into the spiritual side of it is when you write or do things with your non-dominant hand, you're actually balancing out your humanness with your spiritual. Because when you write with your non-dominant hand, it bypasses the brain. It's straight to spirit. That's why if you write a question and an answer with your right, like your dominant hand, you might get a totally different answer with your non-dominant. So automatic writers tend to do the opposite,
Yeah.
like me.
And I've heard connection between further creativity or the idea of spiritual. And I mean, I guess I frankly identify as non-spiritual, but I won't completely say that either. But for like
You're
the sake of
creative.
this, I feel less spiritual than not. So I don't know for sure on that one. I don't know how to prove that, but I just know
So
like I look at the human body, like this hand is a mirror version of that. Like we're designed physically for mirrored movement. Therefore, that's what I want to practice, believing that we would receive and experience these benefits. And so anecdotally, I've experienced that. That's why I passionately encourage everyone to do this. I know one thing I do want to mention too, you mentioned the skateboarders, the snowboarders,
yeah,
the massage therapist said that their bodies are all jacked up. I met a man a few months ago who was a violinist, and he was an older gentleman. And we were talking about this. He was very interested in it, but he was also very frustrated with the idea because he said, "Well, I'm a lifelong violinist, and they don't make lefty violins. It's just not a thing." And he said to me, "Quote, all violinists, when they get older, their necks are messed up.
mm-hmm.
The only reason is because we don't make a mirrored violin.
Yeah.
Super sad.
Well,
Super sad.
and how many writers that write left play all sports right? And
Well, I can think
and
of Bill Gates as an example of that, where
yeah,
he plays tennis lefty, or excuse me, he plays tennis righty, but he writes lefty.
yeah,
Lionel Messi is one of 3% of soccer players who basically does that between writing and soccer. There's other ones who I can research further that I probably are on the list of the people that I write about. But yeah, it's mixed preference. But the big thing though that has been part of our great mistake has been when educating people is telling them, oh, do just whatever side feels most comfortable. If we did that with nutrition and exercise, we'd all be massively obese sitting on our couches and never taking the stairs. Because I could just push that button and hop in the elevator and go up to the floor I want to go to. Why wouldn't I do that? That's just easier. Let's do that. Same thing with all of this. Why would I mirror read when I can just read right now easier? Why would I write with that other hand when it looks like garbage? Because we
but
don't
it's
know any better. And it's something
well, I
that
know, but
takes
it's
a
also
long time to
practice,
develop it.
right? Yeah, you
Mhm.
get better with your non-dominant hand the more you practice,
Yes. Yes.
right?
hmm
So, and there was a question in the chat with autism and ADHD from Holly.
Yeah, I was just about to get to that
Okay.
after Lynn.
All
Lynn,
right.
a question, and before we go back to Jack. Lynn, you have to come on mute, off mute.
Yep.
Okay.
So I had two comments. So in the early 80s, my husband was in an accident. He has 8 plates in his face and a glass eye. And I did not know him at that point, but we've talked a lot about how his brain has had to reconfigure. And you would never know you would never know anymore. So that just really is a testament to the neuroplasticity of our brains that we don't give it credit for. The other thing too is I had a daughter that I homeschooled my kids, and she desperately wanted to read, but she had a difficult time doing it because she wasn't dyslexic, but she could write mirror perfect backwards. And so we got her into something called vision therapy, and they had to do a lot of eye training exercises and like balance beam and from both directions and things like that. And just curious if there's a correlation between all of that.
I will say, short answer, yes. A lot of kids will instinctively mirror write. They're never taught it, but they'll instinctively do it until, unfortunately, as teachers come along and we're like, oh my gosh, you have dyslexia. We better fix that because that's the wrong way to write, kid. So we completely have them miss out on developing equally both sides of their brain. The only reason we've ever heard of Leonardo da Vinci is because he never formally attended school. Teachers would have completely slapped that out of him, writing all of his notebooks mirror direction. You kidding me, kid? Paul McCartney, the left-handed Beatle, that's how he wrote his notebooks as a young kid before his teachers noted it, and he got in trouble, and so they had to fix him. And so,
and she's ambidextrous.
What's that?
She's ambidextrous.
Oh, she is. Well,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's she's been practicing MMD then, it sounds like, for years. And again, with all of this, I would tell any of us, young and old, work to develop that less dominant side, which always ends up meaning mirror direction, compared to the traditionally accepted direction. So like lean into that. That's where you're gonna feel the most benefit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, to Holly's question, she was curious what implications there may be with autism and ADHD and any studies/experiences with the individuals in this group.
So I haven't done any research that, in the research that I've done, I should say, autism, ADHD never came up with anything. So I haven't researched it enough to answer with any kind of expertise on this. One thing that comes to my mind is a quote that Da Vinci has where he says, study without desire spoils the memory. And Da Vinci, because he never went to school, he never had to sit through a class and think, oh my gosh, I hate this class. Why do I got to sit through this? He was free to go out into nature, explore and observe the things, allow his natural curiosity to go where it led him into genuine pursuits. And when you are able to work at learning something that you genuinely want to learn, you'll recall all the details really well. That's why I can passionately present on this topic. That's how I've been able to become a tour guide in various cities across the United States bilingually from coast to coast. I can get a new assignment in a city and mirror read all the details, and my memory is not perfect, but I can recall those details more easily than not. Now, if you ask me, Jim, we need you to do the marketing for some energy drink company that destroys the livers of people, I'm not going to have any desire to do that, and I'm going to suck at that job. And you're going to think, wow, what's wrong with Jim? Like, he must have like a learning disability. So I don't know. I don't know how much of all that goes into it, but I know I hated elementary school in a lot of ways. There's a lot of high school I didn't like. I didn't really love learning until college when I was free to show up to classes or not, get involved with an endless amount of extracurricular activities that I actually found interesting. And that's when I soared and I excelled. I nearly got expelled from high school. I graduated cum laude, from undergrad. Granted, I dropped out of grad school because I wasn't interested in it. But I feel like I made up for lost time in writing my book and doing what I do and, have produced today. So maybe in somewhere there was an answer. I know my young niece, she has autism, And she developed what appeared to have been a lot of learning disabilities until one day she all of a sudden was reading after no one taught her. We're sitting around TV, words are popping up on the screen, and the kid show she's watching, she's just all of a sudden reading them. And today she's a straight A student in, I think, third grade. She's in third grade, and she's awesome. Regina's the coolest girl. But yeah, she has notable autism, and um, but she doesn't practice MMD. She kind of goes back and forth a little bit, but she's quite right-handed.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Jan, you had another question.
Yeah, being the practical person I am, if you were going to start it, like start practicing more or whatever, one is where would you begin and for how long? You know what I mean? It's like,
Sure.
this is, I've done stuff like this. It's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there and you're like, okay, like my brain feels like you get like brain fatigue.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. So like everything, you need to start gradually, I'm assuming, because it's like lifting weights. You can't lift, you know, hundreds of pounds initially.
No, and that's the exact that's how I paint the picture in a lot of these presentations. You can't just go to the gym. You can see the guy that you want to look like I want to get big and buff like that, but you can't just immediately like all of a sudden overnight do that. And you need to take your rest and you need to take your break. So here's what I tell people. At least two things. This will turn into a third thing though. It is a holistic practice and it starts little bit by little bit over time. So when I really got into this, it was after skateboarding, and I did switch stance skateboarding for 4 years exclusively. By the time my body was starting to feel realigned, I went back to skating in my regular direction, and I was immediately starting to be able to do new tricks that I couldn't do before, which is something called manual transfer learning, where your dominant side gains proficiency when you focus exclusively on the development of that less dominant side. And it was such a eureka, breakthrough, aha moment that I wondered what would happen if I started doing everything lefty, mirrored, switch. And that was 15 years ago. I grew up doing everything righty. So I was like, okay, let me start opening the doorknob left-handed. Let me turn on the light switch left-handed. Let me eat my Cheerios in the morning left-handed. So on and so forth. It started like that. I didn't start writing lefty until I think 3 years into that, probably, give or take. And it wasn't even mirrored. It was just lefty in the traditional direction. So it's been this little bit by little bit thing. By 2020, I started mirror reading because I learned about Ben Franklin and Leonardo da Vinci, mirror writing. And then mirror typing, I didn't even start getting into that until 10 months ago when I got produced the world's first mirrored computer keyboard. So it's been this years long transition into it. The other two things that I would say, one of those, if you are a lifelong athlete, maybe you grew up playing soccer, maybe you grew up playing baseball and you threw with just one hand and you did it for years. Maybe you're like me and you played ice hockey for years and you just had a right-handed stick, or you grew up skateboarding. As crazy as it sounds, you want to pick up that sport again and learn it mirrored. That's going to sound impossible, but that's the practice. And you start little bit by little bit, and you're going to feel like a first grader who's learning how to read and write. You look at a first grader who's writing with their quote unquote dominant hand, it's still going to look like chicken scratch, but it takes time to develop. Same thing with doing it lefty in particular, mirrored. And the last number one thing that I would say, like, all right, Jim, like sum it up, like what's the one thing I would do? And I said it already in this presentation, mirror read, because you've never done it before. All the reading you've ever done has only ever been in that one direction. Learn how to mirror read. That's what Ben Franklin was doing for
mirror reading is actually very easy for me.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Well, yeah, because I can read Hebrew.
Oh,
really
well, there you go then. And you now
so,
know why.
So that's not very challenging for me.
Okay.
I can write Hebrew. So
oh, great.
You know, so that's not really a challenge as far as that goes. I mean, so mirror reading is probably maybe a little bit more easeful than other things would be for me.
Yeah. Get the mirrored keyboard then. Hey, check out my YouTube channel. I've got 50 videos on there right now. two of the videos you should definitely see are, I think my most popular video is on why and how to mirror read. I explain it, show how to do it with reading mirrors, holding books at a 45-degree angle. I walk through getting the mirrorread.com web browser tool so you can mirror read on web browser, and also on taking screenshots on your phone and mirror flipping those so you can mirror read from your phone. And the other video is on the mirrored keyboard, why and how to use it. And that, yeah, if you want to, again, feel what it's like to put your brain in a
I'm not sure
microwave.
I'm ready for that.
Yeah, mirror type on a mirrored screen, mouse in the other hand, the buttons are flipped, but work up to it. Just maybe start typing on the mirror keyboard while looking at the screen normally. The mouse is in the right hand. But then all of those four different elements between the buttons flipped, the mouse flipped, the screen flipped, and the keyboard flipped, those four elements, you can introduce those one at a time and then practice them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you'll feel it in the brain. It will trip you out. It's incredible. I can't say enough about it.
Thank you.
Can I just add something here, Jan? One thing that sort of occurred to me, and you're a facilitator for Denise Medved's agelessgrace.com, where there might be an opportunity for you to connect Jim to Denise and see if that can be included, or maybe what parts of our 21 exercises that help people.
There are, I mean, very much so. You do a lot of stuff in Ageless Grace with non-dominant hands, and a lot of, that's very well, like a lot of other practices, like mind body practices. It's very common to do stuff, and you're, because you're doing it in the class, you're forced, like basically you do it, and it is challenging. Like even stuff like, making shapes, with one hand and trying to make a shape, like in having, let's say, a triangle not look like a circle when you get fast, like things like that with your non-dominant side is really hard.
Yeah, in all of this, it's like scales. If you've spent your whole life doing one thing in one direction, your MMD goal is to work to learn how to do that mirror. So whatever that is for you, whatever activities you've done the most, single-sided, your major goal of MMD is to work to learn how to do that in that mirrored direction. That's what you really want to do. I tell people to pick up my book. It's on Amazon, it's on Audible, it's on Kindle. It just recently came out in Spanish. Last week, I gave my first presentation in Spanish in Tijuana, which was awesome. I was so happy on it. But pick up the book because it's the world's first symmetric book. It's written both forwards and backwards in that mirrored and traditional direction. So you can actually physically pick it up, flip it over from the back, and mirror read the printed pages. So that's an added level. And there's no other book in the world where you can really do that with. So I guess unless you're like Jen and you read Hebrew, you're reading that right to left, you're moving your eyes in that direction, that would be the only other way. So either pick up my book or go learn Hebrew, Arabic, or Farsi and then read that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. Adele and then Stephen.
You brought up dyslexia, and do you find that people with dyslexia can do this mirror easier? And also, I don't know, like about the cross country skiing. Can't say it because it's mirrored. That I never thought about anything. You just put the skis on, you start skiing. Took some friends out, and they were like buffoons. They were just crossed. They couldn't. I'm like, it's like walking, and they're like, yeah, can't do this. Like, how do you do this?
Right? I mean, skiing, that's MMD, because it's symmetric, and now it's one thing to recognize a lot of us would, because we have a more dominant side and a propensity to just choose whatever's easier. A lot of times you might just turn one direction over the other and just not even think about it. So I don't know exactly like what would have been going on with your friends like while skiing, but
it's funny. And then someone asked me yesterday, we're going into a parking lot. Do I always turn left into the stall? And I'm like, oh, right. And I'm like, I do.
Yeah.
But other people turn right. And I'm like, Interesting. So you're just bringing up all these things in my head that are going doing, doing, doing.
Yeah, I understand that a lot of us who are dominant righty tend to turn to the right more often, which you can see, like, if you ever visit the Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C., there's a big quote of his on the ceiling. And in order to read it, because it's written circularly, you physically have to turn to the right in order to read it. As far as dyslexia goes, when I think of this, there's more that I can learn about dyslexia. There's different expressions of how that is translated as a quote unquote disability. Now, if words are all jumbled and they're kind of all over the place and it's preventing you from being able to read, of course, I would consider a disability. But the brain, if it has more of a tendency to either see things in a mirror direction or you feel compelled to write things in a mirror direction, I mean, the brain, you have those two, the two hemispheres. The ideal brain, it looks like a symmetric organ. And again, this is completely symmetric. This is a mirror image of that. Because we only ever read text in one direction, when we see text look mirrored, because we never see it, we never work out that way, it looks bizarre beyond. But if you look at languages that you don't recognize, like the Middle Eastern languages, you look at Hebrew mirrored next to Hebrew traditional, or Arabic traditional next to Arabic mirrored, it'll just look like beautiful, perfect symmetry. English would look that same way too if we developed it, but because we don't, we're making our brains lopsided by only ever reading and writing in one direction, which is why Broca's area, it's the language center of the brain. Paul Broca, French neurophysician, in the 1860s coined the term. It's in the left brain hemisphere, which controls the right hand, which is how 90+% of us, write. So it's in that hemisphere. But there's that 10% where it's in the other side. So you would think that for those folks, the mirror reading and mirror writing should be something much more instinctive for them. But because we've unfortunately declared in culture only one directionality is appropriate, if you do anything other than that, you tend to get labeled with dyslexia. So I would consider a complete misdiagnosis based on our culture's great mistake of only choosing one side over these centuries.
All right.
Thank
Cool.
you so much.
This has been fascinating.
Stephen, and then we should probably, but Michael, are you going to sing us out again today?
I am.
Okay, great. Okay, Stephen, please.
So I was just playing with the camera. And I'll show you if I can make it work. There's your.
I love that.
But here's something that I noticed. All right, so I noticed that having just a pixel or two difference in the symmetry is making my brain hurt, or maybe it's just the fact that I'm looking at two images, but I'm noticing things that I don't notice in your individual image. And so I think my question goes into this. All right, so I'm already noticing a cognitive load because I'm processing differently. And I guess my question goes into I don't know. It just, to me, it's just a weird experience. So when you were arranging the symmetry, is that something that you find, is that you like to have things perfectly
I do now. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, I do. I do. I have a symmetry sensitivity for sure.
Is that the propensity of the brain to have things balanced, or?
Well, yeah, I can tell you what comes to my mind. So as a tour guide in Philadelphia for various years, I've been inside of Independence Hall dozens of times. And in the courtroom of Independence Hall, it's designed to be perfectly symmetric, just like the exterior, perfectly symmetric. Funny thing, if you go to the courtroom, it looks completely symmetric, including the two doors. There's one door that's on the left side. There's one door that's on the right. The door that's on the right side is a dummy door. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go to anywhere. It's just there visually to complete the symmetry. Now, there's, of course, art that's completely asymmetric that we also love. I think it was Aristotle who talked about symmetry being one of the three chief forms of beauty, along with orderliness and definitiveness, of which the mathematical sciences can prove and display. So yeah, there's a propensity towards symmetry that we have as humans. I understand that some of the most or the most beautiful looking of us tend to be the most symmetric physically in our exterior features. So short answer, yes. Yeah, and
So I
I mean
just
I'm a symmetric street artist too, so I do symmetric art on everything. So it's like it's I love symmetry. I cannot get enough
Can
of
I
it.
just jump in quickly because I've done many, many courses on face reading and whatever. And when you start splitting the face, you can start seeing the issues in the body
Yeah.
because you're very balanced in the computer, and it's like, wow, I haven't seen a balanced face like that in a long time. So you've been working on your stuff.
Thanks. Well, I know that one of my eyes is a little lower than the other. I know that. So, that's a bit of a hardware asymmetry that I would consider myself having. And I don't know to what degree that translates ultimately in my pursuit of gaining equal use of symmetry between both sides of my left and right body. Um, but, it's again, for all of us, it's do this the best that you can. Make modifications however you deem fit. I mean, it's an exercise. It's a lifestyle habit, and none of us are perfect. But it's always great to strive, when it doesn't drive you insane. Yes, it'd be so funny if you were to have the cleanest diet of your life and you stressed out so much about having a clean diet and a perfect life that the stress of accomplishing that killed you decades before the guy who just whimsically went throughout life and drank beer every evening with his friends and had carne asada on the weekends and lived another 20 years longer than you. So it's it'd be ultimately ironic if I talk so much about this pillar of longevity and it doesn't translate into years ultimately because I am only 43. We'll see where things ultimately go.
That's really, really awesome. I'll just make one more comment. Nature is handed. If you're, I mean, obviously at the macro level, and we also perceive beauty, as you just said, when the face is perfectly symmetrical. So people that look like yourself perfectly symmetrical, they appear more beauty. But if you look at the molecules of life, proteins, each amino acid has a hand to it,
Mm-hmm.
and we call it right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, you see
And
asymmetry everywhere in nature. The DNA helix, it spirals in one direction, seashells spiral in one direction. So, yeah,
yeah,
but I'm talking about us as humans. We're physically designed for
yeah.
symmetric movement when you look at the symmetry of the average skeleton, the symmetry of the average exterior features, and the symmetric weight distribution of all the asymmetrically placed organs. That's designed for symmetry. But again, you do see.
I was just an interesting sort of, at the very micro level,
Mhm,
it's not necessarily reflecting the symmetry at the macro level, but
mhm.
yeah. So this is fascinating. Um, the question that we all have a dominant eye. And obviously when you're on the golf course, you try to line up the ball with your dominant eye, not the non-dominant eye. Has that ever been switched? From your left eye, which was dominant and is now switched to the right eye being dominant, or is
I
that
don't
something
think
that's
for me
higher in?
it's switched, but I feel much more balanced when it comes to that gaze. And I think the biggest thing that does that is the mirrored reading, because that's the
Okay.
most ocular form of MMD that you can perform is that mirror reading. I would notice it best when I cut my own hair. I've been doing it for years, and I'll hold up a mirror and I'm looking into the mirror, and in that mirror I see the reflection of my wall mirror behind me in the bathroom, and I can see the back of my head. And so I'll notice it'll feel different if I'm looking on one side compared to the other, but I feel like it's been getting easier and better over the years. But now that would just be anecdotal.
So let
I
me ask you then. So you know how to figure out how your dominant eye is, don't you? And most people here do.
I've heard it's with covering one up, but tell me.
Yes, basically you point at something,
Hmm.
point at an image, cover up the left eye and cover up the right eye and see where the image is. Is it on? Is your finger on the image with one of the two eyes? Because it's going to shift to one or the other.
Okay, I haven't done that. I'll have to do that.
And that would be your dominant eye. But so yeah, no, this is awesome. I think you've inspired me to go buy a left-handed club, because again, as you was pointing
with
out,
golf. Oh
with
yes,
golf, yeah, my chiropractor says, since you're swinging always in the right direction,
yes,
then you should actually on the practice range swing in the other direction as well, just to keep everything
yes,
balanced.
yes. Even just take your standard club, you just flip it around and just practice swinging, because that's such a massive macro muscular movement of the body. You're doing the shifting of weight from one leg to the other, full body movement. Yeah, any golfer, you want to switch up that other side and
But also what
practice
you were
swinging.
saying, Jim, on your list of benefits, just the benefit of balance, because as we do mature and we lose, if we don't pay attention to, we lose our muscle, we lose our balance, and then that's a trip, and that's a fall, and that's not a good idea. So that's really and Steve, you're making me here. You're distracting me with your mirror
But
activity.
it's disconcerting, isn't it?
It's incredibly disconcerting. Well, I mean, it's like a little boy playing in the background, having his own little fun. So, but thank you so much for that, Steve. I'm going to hand it over to Michael to sing us out.